Brothers and sisters, tonight I want to talk to you about something that shook the world. Not just in missiles and military might, but in silence, in indifference, and in the echo of pride shattered on a world stage. I want to talk about a moment that history may choose to whisper about, or even try to forget, but we will not. Because the moment we stop acknowledging power shifts, the moment we stop seeing the truth behind the silence, is the moment we lose our voice. And I don't know about you, but I refuse to live in a world where truth is buried beneath headlines and dignity is drowned in diplomacy. So, let's talk about it. The night Iran crushed Israel's pride, and the world stayed silent. This was not just about warheads or drones. No, this was a war of will, of image, of reputation. For decades, Israel has been seen as the untouchable, the Iron Dome of the Middle East, the ally of the West with unshakable resolve and unbreakable technology. That image has been carefully cultivated, presented to the world like a diamond. Flawless, brilliant, and indestructible. But pride, brothers and sisters, can blind a nation just like it blinds a man. And when pride comes before the fall, it does not ask for permission. That night, Iran didn't just launch an attack. It launched a message. It said, "We are not what we were. We are not afraid. And we are not going to ask you for a seat at your table. We are building our own." The missiles were precise. The coordination was staggering. And the outcome, it stunned even those who had scoffed at Iran's capability. Israel's defense systems, long praised for their speed and accuracy, were overwhelmed. The airspace that had once been considered impenetrable was pierced again and again. It was a demonstration not just of firepower, but of calculation, of intelligence, of strategy. And as all of this unfolded, something even more telling occurred. Nothing. From the global stage came silence. The same leaders who rise for every briefing, who condemn every strike, who hold emergency summits for the most minor disputes, had little to say. Why? Because power recognizes power. Because even the world knew, in that moment, that a new reality had arrived, and speaking against it would not undo it. It would only expose how late they were to recognize the shift. Brothers and sisters, what does it mean when the world stays silent? It means that reality has outpaced rhetoric. It means that the policies of yesterday no longer control the consequences of today. And when Iran moved with that kind of confidence, when it shook the myth of invincibility that Israel has worn like a crown, it didn't just defeat a defense system, it shook the foundation of global alignment. And not one of those powerful nations dared to say the truth out loud. Now let me be clear, this isn't about choosing sides in a conflict. This is about understanding what happens when pride gets ahead of preparation, when dominance is assumed and not defended with humility and wisdom. It's about seeing that the balance of power in this world is never fixed. It is always shifting, and it shifts to those who are willing to pay the price of focus, discipline, and strategy. Iran paid that price. While the world scoffed, sanctioned, and suppressed, Iran studied. It learned. It waited. And when it moved with conviction. That should make every nation pause, every leader rethink what they thought they knew. Because dominance is not declared, it is demonstrated. And that night, Iran demonstrated it. Not because they had the most friends, not because they had the loudest voices in the media, but because they had vision, patience, and boldness. And you know what pride does when it's wounded? It scrambles. It tries to explain away its failure. It blames others. It throws around words like provocation and terror, trying to salvage the image. But deep down, the pride that once strutted on stages with confidence now limps in the halls of uncertainty. And it's a reminder for every individual, every business, every empire. If you do not stay sharp, if you believe your past victories are enough to protect you from present threats, you will be overtaken. Not maybe. Not eventually. Definitely. The silence of the world was louder than the explosions. Because in that silence was a quiet respect. Whether they admit it or not, those in power saw a nation rise not just with missiles, but with courage. And when courage and capability collide, respect is earned, even from enemies. That's why the condemnation was so sparse. That's why the outrage never really came. Because the world was watching a new chapter being written, and no one wanted to be the fool who tried to stop the ink from flowing. But what does this mean for us, brothers and sisters? It means that pride must always be tempered with preparation. It means that no matter how high you climb, there is someone studying how to surpass you. And if you do not evolve, you will be eclipsed. It means the underdog, the underestimated, the outcast, they have a power that the elite often forgetting: hunger. Hunger to prove, to rise, to win. And hunger, when fed by purpose, is unstoppable. The night Iran struck wasn't just a military maneuver. It was a moment of transformation. It was a reminder that the world does not belong to the loudest or the richest, but to the most relentless. And while some saw it as aggression, others saw it as assertion, the kind that says, "You cannot ignore us anymore." And isn't that how the world has always changed? Not with permission, but with bold action. Not with applause, but with resistance. The empires that last are not the ones who shout from podiums. They are the ones who stay quiet, plan in the dark, and strike when the world least expects it. Iran knew what it was doing, and whether you agree with it or not, you must acknowledge the precision, the nerve, and the message. So, what do we take from this, brothers and sisters? We take the lesson that pride without preparation is a setup for humiliation, that silence is not always weakness. Sometimes it's recognition, and that every time the world shifts, those who are watching closely, those who are discerning will see the signs before the masses do. Never forget, those who are underestimated today become the giants of tomorrow. And when the world stays silent, it's not because they don't see. It's because they know they were wrong, and now they must adjust. The night iron crushed Israel's pride was not just about nations. It was about a principle. That respect is not inherited, it is earned. And that even the greatest can fall if they stop becoming better. So rise up, learn from what the world won't say. And remember, history is made not by those who wait to be acknowledged, but by those who move when others sleep. The silence of the world spoke louder than any sanction, any speech, or any summit. And in that silence, a new reality was born. Brothers and sisters, this wasn't just about military strategy. It was a moment where the veil was lifted, where the truth became undeniable for those with eyes to see and ears to hear. Because when something this seismic happens, and the world doesn't even flinch, it tells you that alliances are shifting, that respect is being recalculated, and that dominance is no longer reserved for those who used to wield it by default. It tells you that power is fluid, not fixed, and that the game has changed. But too many are still playing by yesterday's rules, and that's why they're losing today's battles. This world does not reward arrogance. It punishes stagnation. You cannot live off your legacy forever. You cannot depend on the protection of reputation when your adversaries are building real capability. And yet, time and again, we see the proud forget this. They live in echo chambers. They worship their past victories, and they mock the rising underdogs, until those underdogs rise up and shatter the illusion. And then, just that, the narrative changes. The myth is exposed. And those who believed they were invincible are suddenly scrambling for explanations, because they never prepared for a world where they were not in control. You see, brothers and sisters, pride is a dangerous companion. It will keep you warm in your delusions while your enemies grow sharper in the shadows. It will make you think you're still on top, even when the foundation beneath you is cracking. And by the time the walls collapse, it's too late to reinforce them. That's what we witnessed. Israel, long seen as the regional superpower, didn't just take a hit. It took a blow to its pride. Its aura of invulnerability was pierced, not only physically but psychologically. And the world saw it. The silence was the acknowledgement. And yet, in the middle of that silence, what did the world choose to do? It chose to whisper behind closed doors. It chose to analyze in secret think tanks. It chose to avoid headlines that might ignite unrest or challenge the existing narrative. Because acknowledging the reality would mean confronting uncomfortable truths. It would mean admitting that perhaps the balance of power is no longer what it once was. And in the corridors of global power, no one wants to admit they bet on the wrong horse, that their assumptions have expired. But we are not here to maintain illusions, are we? We are here to confront truth, because truth, no matter how uncomfortable, is what sets us free. And the truth is that Iran didn't just send drones and missiles. It sent a message to every capital, every strategist, every diplomat. We are here. We are capable. And we will not be ignored. And that message landed harder than any explosion, because it shattered the illusion that some nations were permanently beneath others. It said, "You underestimated us, and now you will have to reckon with that mistake." Now let's ask the deeper question, why does the world stay silent when such a shift occurs? It's not fear, brothers and sisters. It's embarrassment. Embarrassment that despite the sanctions, the speeches, the international isolation, the nation they tried to break is now dictating the tempo of confrontation. It's not just about Iran and Israel. It's about what happens when the marginalized master the game and throw the board off the table. That's what keeps diplomats up at night, because it forces them to rewrite the map they thought was permanent. But here's the deeper layer. This isn't just geopolitics. This is a reflection of how life works. How many times have you seen someone overlooked, underestimated, ridiculed, only to rise in power and purpose when no one believed in them? That's what we're seeing on the world stage. And that's why you must take this moment as a personal parable, because the same principles apply to you. If you're willing to build while you're mocked, to grow while you're ignored, to focus while you're dismissed, then one day, you too will rise in a way they can't deny, and they will have no choice but to sit in silence and watch. This world is not made for the comfortable. It's made for the committed. Iran showed commitment, strategic, methodical, and relentless. While others flaunted their strength, Iran honed its skills. While others relied on allies, Iran relied on adaptation. And in doing so, it created leverage, not through popularity, but through preparation. And that's something every person needs to understand. Preparation is power, not how loud you talk, not how many people cheer for you, but how sharp you are when it's time to act, when the spotlight is off, when the odds are stacked, when the world has already counted you out. That's where real power is born. And when that power is finally revealed, the silence is deafening, because those who once had the upper hand now have no words, because they never imagined they would lose it. But that is what happens when pride blinds you to preparation, when your narrative is louder than your strategy, when your identity is based on perception rather than precision. That's what crumbled on that night, and no amount of media spin can change it. Brothers and sisters, understand this: the silence of the world is a confession that they were wrong, a confession that things have changed, a confession that control has slipped through their fingers. And if you're wise, you won't just watch this moment. You'll learn from it. You'll study the discipline behind the strike, the patience behind the buildup, the courage behind the confrontation. Because whether or not you agree with the players, the principles are undeniable. And the one who applies those principles in life, in business, in purpose, will always come out on top. So I challenge you today. Don't be like those who sleep on their past success. Don't be like those who rely on the applause of yesterday. Don't be like those who think influence can't be challenged. Instead, be the one who prepares in silence, who builds in the dark, who trains in obscurity. And when the moment comes, you move with such clarity, such force, such precision, that even your enemies have to pause and respect it. Not because they want to, but because they must. Because when the proud fall and the silent rise, the world rewrites the rules. And if you're awake, you won't just survive that rewrite. You'll lead it. Don't fear the silence. Sometimes silence is the only honest sound in a room full of liars. And on that night, the silence said everything. We see it, we know it, and we were not ready. But the world is ready now. Ready to face a future where old powers are humbled and new powers rise with purpose. So rise, brothers and sisters. Rise with the truth, the discipline, the vision. Because the world has already changed. And the ones who recognize it first will shape what comes next. Brothers and sisters, as we close this moment together, let us not forget what we have just witnessed. Not merely a military event, but a spiritual and strategic revelation. The night Iran crushed Israel's pride was more than a conflict. It was a crossroads, a turning point where image collided with reality, where preparation triumphed over presumption, and where the silent were heard without speaking a word. That silence was not weakness. It was the world's stunned respect for a nation that refused to stay in the corner it had been placed in. Let this be a wake-up call, not just for nations, but for individuals. Because the same principles apply to all of us. You can't live off past victories. You can't protect your future with yesterday's defenses. You must evolve, sharpen, and rise. Not in pride, but in purpose. That night revealed that the world is changing. And the question is not who has the loudest voice, but who has the clearest vision. If a nation can be underestimated, ignored, sanctioned, and still rise to rewrite the rules, then so can you. You are not defined by who overlooks you. You are defined by what you build in silence, by what you prepare in private, and by how boldly you move when your moment comes. So don't be distracted by the noise. Pay attention to the silence, because in that silence, power is being transferred. In that silence, pride is falling and purpose is rising. And if you walk with wisdom, courage, and discipline, you won't just witness history, you will shape it. Thank you.